Hey guys, it's me. It's Shane Davis. I'm here with Yanzi Lynn.
Hello.
We're here to talk about Decimated DC. Decimated DC, we talk about it time to time on this channel. I'm a comic artist penciler, been in the industry almost 20-some years, and I feel like I know a little in and out about the comic biz, just a little bit from my years dealing with retailers, publishers, writers, editors, etc., etc. And today we're going to talk about a little bit of news DC has coming out for their new lineup. But before we get into that, guys, please hit like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. Leave us a comment. It will help the channel out. So with this, a new book, we're getting ready to get March's books lined out for us. We will know what DC will be doing and won't be doing. Some people would say this is the new DC Comics, the AT&T DC Comics, the way they see publishing. And we're going to go through this, guys. But right now, one of the books is an anthology book. Now, an anthology book can be fun. They can be fun because you end up with a lot of characters in it. Right, Yanzi?
Yep. So what is going to happen in this book is that it's going to be a monthly anthology book, 64 pages, featuring Batman, Grifter, and the Outsiders serials. They'll be leading a new ongoing DC anthology that will launch in March, which is right after the Future State event. It'll be called Batman Urban Legends. So I was wondering, at a 64-page count, how much is the price point for a book like that?
It's got to be somewhere. If I had to guess on the, if they're really just trying to get the information out there and they don't care about making money, it's probably on the lowest, and I don't think it would be that low, $5.99, but we're probably looking at more like a $7.99 to $9.99 book. 64 pages of new content, not like the Walmart Digest. Imagine this will kind of look like the Walmart Digest, but these are
100% original content, I guess.
Yeah, all new content. So I'm leaning towards the $9.99. I mean, that's going to be brand new scripts, brand new art. That's pencils, inks, colors, letters, all new material. It's got to be hitting upward to the $9.99 point. I fear that because there's some name creators on here. Chip Zdarsky is one of them. A few more. But the interesting part here, we can go down and talk about the lineup on this book. Let's just do that first.
Yeah, so first up, I believe I also saw Chip Zdarsky post on his Twitter saying that he's super excited. He'll be working with artist Eddie Burrows on a 6-part Batman Red Hood story. And his synopsis here is that will find Jason Todd investigating a new lethal drug that is sweeping Gotham City. And that book is going to be a 6-parter as announced. There will also be other books here, but let me just quickly talk about the Jason Todd thing. I think it's interesting that throughout all the reboots, ever since the Hush event, all the Jason Todd basically had a place in every single DC reboot, having either a solo title or a team book title. Red Hood and the Outlaws.
Yeah, it was a thing. He had his own book. Well, they were trying to, under the hood, they were already trying to think of a way to spin him out into his own book, but it really wasn't till the New 52 he had his own title. Scott Liddell has famously written this character in his own solo title, even into Rebirth, DC's Rebirth. So at least 2 reboots, he's had his own title, multiple reboots on them, even like the New 52 version. I think maybe he's had 2 new #1s, or maybe in Rebirth. All these yeah, he had a couple of #1s. So it's weird. They've always put this character out there on his own, kind of, ever since Under the Hood story arc. And Jason Todd, they use in a lot of the Red Hood, they use in a lot of media. So it's kind of strange. Video games, the Titans TV show he's in, it's very strange that he's not worth his own title anymore. We'll get to that in a minute.
I'll say that the fact that he is always in the DC, when they do reboots, kind of proves that, DC sees the value in him in being like, one of the flagship characters. So it's very interesting that this time around they're doing a new reboot and he's not one of the flagship characters, but he is in this book with a bunch of other, characters. And one of them would be Grifter. So it'll be
No.
Matthew Rosenberg continuing working with Ryan Benjamin.
Grifter being a character from Wildcats. Now, Grifter did have a series on his own, along with, I think, Voodoo in the New 52. These are characters that Jim Lee created when he was at Wildstorm, and kind of Warner Brothers kind of owns them now. But you will see them kind of sneak out in a reboot every now and then, again, with the DC Universe, as they clumsily try to integrate the Wildstorm universe into the DC universe, which they've never had success on. They always try to do something with Midnighter, Grifter, Voodoo, but never have these two universes ever really melded correctly. The Authority, some people say they're getting ready to do more with it in the DC universe. So it makes sense that they're bringing Grifter out. I do think it's interesting. We'll get to that, why it's here. The other book that also I want to point out is there's a friendship romance thing between Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy story that's going to be coming up with writer Stephanie Phillips. Now, I don't want to get too much into that, except that this normally would have been, again, in New 52, they had a thing called Gotham City Sirens. That was a book that kind of showcased these two characters in their own book. I do think there is a market for these two characters together. It's interesting that again, that it's here. Was there one other story, or is that
Yeah, there's one more. But just to point out, though, this Harley Quinn story in this anthology looks like it's set before the launch of Phillips' new Harley Quinn ongoing with artist Riley Rossmo. So it's interesting because it implies that, you know, that Harley Quinn, definitely they see her as being like a flagship character that can also headline her own book. But probably Jason Todd and Grifter can't, I guess.
This is a thing where I'm pretty sure what we're about to see is, you know, these books can't. DC's making a conscious decision to not publish these books on their own. The other one being a Batman and the Outsiders book, or an Outsiders book. That's a 3-part thing. Again, that has Black Lightning, Katana, Metamorpho. Again, a book that has had its own title in multiple incarnations. Now, what's everybody needs to look at, and this is the tea leaves, guys, is these are 4 new #1s that they're deciding they're not worth a new #1. Let's band them together and sell them in an anthology, and then we'll put Batman's name on the logo on the front of the book, even though it looks like everybody but Batman's in this book, unless there's a cameo of Batman in every one of these stories. You know, these are not technically Batman books. There's been the rumor of DC slimming its line down to a bare minimum. And I've said before in the past that would be very easy, because you could take something like a JLA type anthology and you could cover books that don't sell normally too well, like Aquaman, Flash, and even Wonder Woman. And you could just put them in the JLA anthology and you would keep these properties out there, published and relevant. Now, I'm fearful, and everybody should take note that this could be happening on the other side of DC Universe, along with Superman or a JLA type book, and we haven't yet seen that. But the scary part of this is this is supposed to be a jumping on point for a lot of DC people. Future's State was like something new and different, and if you kind of don't like the sound of that, then here's kind of the new normal at DC. And the new normal at DC is pointing at the sky and saying less books. But we still want our cake and eat it too. So how do we do less books? And you know, let's
showcase all our characters.
This is kind of like putting clowns in a clown car in the weirdest way, because you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. So when a book, this forces a book's price to go up. Yes, you can get 4-in-1 publishing, 4 different properties, and maybe if people like it, it'll go off into its own book. Ideally, though, this is a cake and eat it too from the publisher. They get to keep these brands alive, publish and print 1 book, and then turn around and pull all of these things apart to make their individual collections on Amazon. I think this is very, very telling to what they think of the direct market. They don't think the direct market's worth it. But they do think a trade of these characters is worth it. And that's why these are multiple part stories that by a solid creator team that can be pulled apart, re-glued together, and an Outsiders trade, a Harley Quinn Poison Ivy trade, a Red Hood trade, and these things can go up on Amazon. That is what they seem to care about from looking at this. The problem with the mathematics of this is the price, obviously, per this one book will go up. And if you are a fan of, say, Red Hood, like Yanzi is, you now have to commit to buying 3 other books just to read that one Red Hood book. And that's not fair. That's really not fair to the fan. And it's definitely not going to be fair to the retailer, because if this is a $9.99 book, that retailer for this one book that he maybe can or cannot sell, keep that in mind. He doesn't know if he can sell it. He just knows he can't, kind of gauges the interest. He now has to put $5 down on the table for this one book. $4.99 he has to spend to sell a $9.99 book. So this is really, really unfair to retailers. Okay. So the idea is the retailer maybe knows, well, these are my Red Hood orders. These are my Batman and the Outsider orders. That's just what I know I sell. Now, all of a sudden they're combined. So what does he sell of that? He doesn't know. It becomes unquantifiable. He doesn't know how many to order. Plus, it's going to be a very expensive book just by the page count and new material. Now, if DC decides to make this like a $4.99 book, then that's really good for the retailer. But I would be hesitant to say they're going to do that. Actually, I don't see that happening in this equation. It's just the page count and being new material is really impossible. They had a hard time doing that even with the Walmart books they did, and that was cheaper quality paper, and most of the material they had already recouped all the spendings on, and were even in the green on it. These were classic stories like Public Enemy, Superman, Batman, things they've told time and time again. So they had no debt on 99% of the pages that were in the Walmart books. Whereas this, they will have 100% debt on every page in the book. So thinking that we're going to give $4.99 price point on this is not going to happen. I do think this is very telling in what they think the direct market is going to be used for. And they do now, the good sign to everybody is they do care that these properties stay out there. I do see that with this, and they're even willing to, you know, shoehorn a Wildcats character in the mix just to try to throw something new out there. I don't know. You're the Red Hood fan. Do you see yourself buying this?
That's the problem. See, if it's gonna be something in the, you know, like a $7.99 or a $9.99 book, I'm not paying that much just to get a 1 part of a 6-part Red Hood story. It makes way more economic sense for me as a reader to wait for it to be collected in the trade, which I'm pretty sure is going to be happening because DC knows that their trades sell like gangbusters on Amazon and all that. So no, it won't be bringing people into your comic book stores on Wednesdays, or in this case Tuesdays at least.
My fear for this would also be, if I was the cynical side of me says there's also the possibility that somebody is gaining the system. They're trying to say, let's use the direct market to make a Red Hood trade. And I think that's the obvious thing. Like if you think that happens with comics, which it does, but let's just say you're hesitant to subscribe to that theory. This book actually kind of circles that. Let's just put this one book out and then blow it apart and make 4 trades out of it. And I'm not saying there's necessarily anything wrong with that. Actually, in Europe, a lot of their collections are done this way. I just don't know if this is something people that go to comic shops are willing to do, because it's really easy to skip that one, that just skip out on this book like Yanzi would just and wait for the Red Hood trade. I'm not sure if this system works in the trade market. And with these things being individually collected, which, you know, if you look up Red Hood and the Outlaws, they have their own library of trade. So there's obviously a base that will read a Red Hood trade. But anyways, let us know what you think in the comments below. I hope for a brighter future. We'll talk more this week. There'll be more releases. I'm sure there's another anthology book just like this, and we'll take a head count. What did DC's publishing line get down to? And while you're at it, go check out Starlight Cat's up on Indiegogo, guys. We are in demand, so go check that out, and we will catch you next time with another video. Take care.